Welcome to In the Loop podcast. I am your host, Jordan Jo Hollabaugh, and I love all things breakaway roping. Welcome back to our third annual 15 Days of Breakaway Roping series. In this series, we talk all things breakaway roping for 15 straight days, y'all. We interview the top 15 in the world that are making the national finals rodeo. We start from number 15 and we go all the way to number 1. We talk all things breakaway roping, rodeo strategy, horses, ropes, you name it, we talk about it. And one thing I love about this year is these girls have evolved. It's raw, it's real, it's uncut, and we are just so thankful to be able to do this. I want to give a huge shout out to all of our partners who make this happen, and to every one of you who is listening. Thank you for listening. If these episodes make a difference, please go and share it with your friends. Help us grow. Y'all, we're able to be here because of our listeners, because of our fans and supporters. And again, I just want you to know, thank you so much. I love doing this. I love podcasting, and I can't hold back any longer. So let's roll right into it. 15 Days of Breakaway, third annual. Here we go. Let's talk some breakaway roping. Okay, guys, so today we are here with Joey Williams. Joey is a third-time NFBR qualifier, coming in with the number 6 back number to this year's South Point, Las Vegas. Joey, thanks for coming to the show today.
Thanks for having me. I always look forward to these every year.
I know. I'm so excited because it's like the third year we're doing this. I feel like people are starting to look forward to it. It's starting to become a prestigious part of the NFR top 15. And I love getting to interview all of you guys because I watched you rope all year long and we've all been a part of it. And so it's just like such a humble gratification knowing all the hard work has really paid off and you're making it another trip to the NFR.
Yeah, you know, when you sit down and look at the year at the end of the year and kind of have a minute to take a breath and think about everything, it's just wild to think about, you know, from start to finish, all the ups and downs and everything that happened. It's really crazy when you get to kind of sit down and look at your year overall.
Yeah. Well, and you've had a fairy tale year this year, which I feel like every year we talk to you, you've had a fairy tale year. So like, you're not even, I mean, people can't even give you, you're not even an example for a breakaway roper because it's like every year you have a fairy tale year because you're just that good of a roper. You went to 57 rodeos this year. We were just talking a little bit earlier how cool it was. You have 109,001 going into this year's NFR. Last year, after the completion of the NFR, you had 80,001. I mean, how cool does that feel just knowing like, I mean, you're already going in with that much more money?
Yeah, you know, it really is crazy to think about how far it's came, even in 2 years. I mean, it's a huge jump from 2021 and a pretty big jump from 22 to 23. So, I mean, I think that's just really cool, the outlook for breakaway roping, how much it is changing every year. And it's just, I think it's just going to keep getting better. It's pretty exciting.
And one of the things that I think, and we're going to talk about this, y'all, throughout the whole podcast because it's so cool. But Baby, your breakaway horse, y'all raised, you and your husband, she is such an attribute to your breakaway roping game, hauling, traveling, competing, winning, all the things. I mean, your family, you know, you guys are raising little babies as we speak. And so just talk about that horse. You know, she's top 3 again. Last year, she was 2022 AQHA Breakaway Horse of the Year. This year, she's top 3. I don't ever see that changing as long as she's continuing to go and you get to rope. So talk a little bit about her and just how she's excelled and gotten better, you know, year after year.
Yeah, I mean, she is just so solid. I mean, I'm so lucky to have her because she really does her job every time as long as I prepare her correctly. And, you know, I think she's just kind of that type of mare that just has such a big heart. And I know that she loves her job. She's kind of got such a funny personality. I don't know. I had it on my Snapchat the other day, but she loves her pasture that we have for her here. And if I try to like keep her in a corral, she's just goofy about it. Like as soon as I take her halter off at the alley, like we have this alley that gets to her pasture. And I mean, she is just a dead run out there bucking and kicking every time we get home from a rodeo. And it makes me nervous to let her do that, but I know how much she loves to be out there. So she kind of calls the shots. I was just telling my husband that the other day. I'm like, Baby is literally at a place in her age where she is making all of her own decisions. Like, I I was gonna move her into a curl the other day because it was the weather was terrible, and I'm like, she was just like, no, we're going back to the pasture. So I'm like, all right, I'll let you out, but no, she's just so fun to have, and she's passing down lots of personality to her colts, and we're getting to ride some of those, and so yeah, that's really exciting. We actually we have a 3-year-old mare out of baby that's by Smoke and Sparks, and we were gonna flush an embryo on her this year. And the recip didn't line up correctly, but they had already bred her, so we didn't end up. We either had the option to estrumate her, which means to end the pregnancy, or just let her carry it and see if she was bred. Well, it ended up being twins, so
Oh
they had
Lord.
to go in and pinch a twin, and and that's risky as well. So I'm like, she'll probably just not end up being bred. Well, she ended up being bred, so we have a 3-year-old out of baby that's bred. So that's kind of interesting. It wasn't actually in the plans, but we're just going to let her have it, and we're excited about that too. So it's just fun to have such a good matriarch to our program, to our horse program, and to get colts out of her, and then we'll be able to start pulling embryos on her fillies as well. So we're just really excited to see where she takes us, and it's going to be fun to look back in 10 years and see where we started, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
Well, and that's, one of the stories that I had to talk about today. This time last year, I think after the NFR, we sat down and you're like, hey, I'm sending baby down to Fort Worth. We're going to get her flushed. We got embryos and all the things going on there. So breeding and genetics are huge, obviously, for her and this program, your family. But you said, hey, I haven't rode her. She's been at the swimmers. I'm a little nervous. Like, I'm not really sure what to expect. I'm literally flying down to Fort Worth, getting on and going. And you did all winter long.
Yeah,
She was down here. She was at the breeding programs that you have her in, and
yeah.
getting her swim. She was obviously in shape, but you didn't get to practice on her. So talk about what kind of confidence you have in that mare, and your winter run a little bit. Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah, I honestly, that is such a true testament to the horse that she is, because I drove down for Fort Worth, and then from then on out, my boys were in school up here in Montana, and they have wrestling and the ranch and everything else going on. So I just found a place that I felt comfortable leaving her, that could kind of keep her in shape. They had a walker and everything, and just kind of start tracking her cycles so that when she was ready to start breeding flushing embryos, we could. And so baby didn't run a practice calf from the start of Fort Worth until after Austin's short round. Well, actually, I'm not going to say it. We didn't run a practice calf until June, when she came home from the breeding barn before Reno. And so, I really think that's a true testament to the type of horse she is, because she was incredible all winter. She worked so good at all those rodeos, and she scored so sharp. And I honestly, like, she is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I just that's something I really want to point out and highlight, because the more we do this, man, these equine athletes, they just make or break you. You can be a great
Yeah.
roper and not have a great horse, and it's really hard to win. And
Yeah.
when you have these great horses, it's so crucial to capitalize on them. But just telling their stories, that's something that I truly love, is telling the stories of these horses, because every one of them's different. And there's certain things like you about baby, that and all the things. So you said a little earlier she's passing down some of these personality traits to her colts. So what does that look like? Like what are some of those traits that she's handing down?
She's kind of funny. So like her sire was Frenchman's Bullet, and we have we not so many anymore, because she's actually the youngest full crop by that stud that my father-in-law used to own. But they were not really like people weren't really friendly type of horses. They were like more like keep to myself, do my job type of horses. And so as far as a bullet colt, baby is a little more on the friendly side. Like, she's so patient with Shay. I honestly think she likes Shay better than she likes me. She'll stand there, let Shay hug a front leg, and there was a lot of those that were related to baby that weren't quite, wouldn't be that patient with the kid. And so she's kind of funny that way. And then we've crossed her on a couple different studs, but we have 2 colts that are by the stud we own now, which is Smoke and Sunrise, and he's got a lot of personality too. So, her 4-year-old, he'll be 5 this winter, but he is so funny. He will follow you around the corral, in your pocket type horse. He'll be nibbling on your hair. Like, it's just so funny to see a mix of, especially when you have a stud and a mare that you've rode both of them or seen them compete. My sister-in-law used to compete on the stud, and we've all obviously rode baby, and so it's just so funny to see a mix of them and what they pass on to their colts. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, your colts will come up to the fence and take a treat, and they're just they're pretty fun to be around.
Well, and I think that's special. And I think that every one of us has a different different outlook, different jobs, different things that we do at home. And so I think just highlighting that, and that's something you guys, you ranch, you work, like you said, when we got on here earlier, like I've been so busy. And you're a mom of 3, rodeos look a little bit different for you. I know that you take your daughter with you, Shay, everywhere you go because she's a hellion. Excuse me. I'm just kidding. I love Shay. Me and her are pals.
Yeah.
But your boys too, like you said, they're in wrestling. You've got a lot going on. Your husband tries to come out when he can. Your mom, you have so much support and help. So talk a little bit about that and how it's able to look different for you. 57 rodeos isn't a whole lot of rodeos to be coming in at number 6. And that's an awesome feat. And that's something you seem to do every year. So talk a little bit about your strategy and kind of how you go about that.
Yeah, I think that my rodeo career does look a lot different than, someone who's younger and doesn't have a family yet. And I try to do the best I can with what I'm given, and I have so much help. Like you mentioned, my mom, my husband, my mother-in-law, my sister, everybody, my sister-in-law, literally my kids. I just sent them up the hill to my sister-in-law's right now so I could do this podcast. So, it really does take a village. And, I do. It's funny for me to think about 57 rodeos and the fact that I actually got to that many rodeos this year and competed at, that's a mind blowing number to me. It's a lot. It is how I see it. That's a lot of places to get in my pickup with kids and drive to. And I know that other people don't see it that way, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment to even go to just that many. So, yeah, we just do what we can, and I am just truly blessed, and I guess I don't have a lot to say about it. It's a juggling act, and I know a lot of people ask me, how do you do it as a mom with 3 kids and so much stuff going on? And I wish that I had answers for them because it really is just a circus act. Every day is a new day, and I literally try not to plan ahead too far. Yes, you have to enter rodeos ahead of time, but my schedule might change. I might enter stuff and end up not going just because it doesn't work out, and that's okay. I would rather be entered and not make it than have something free up and be like, oh shoot, I could have made it to that one and not have a chance to go. So I just try to kind of enter what I think I might get to, and then if it doesn't work out, I don't stress about it. I used to, the first year I went, if I didn't make it to a rodeo I was entered in, it would really stress me out. And now it's almost just like, you know what? That one didn't work out. Everything's fine. We'll just keep going. So yeah. I don't know. And I think it's just, I have, you have your people you look up to, and I said her name before, but my cousin's wife is Jessica Rotier, and they have 5 kids. And so I always tell her, every time I strap a kid in a car seat, I think of Jess, and I'm like, if she can do this with 5, I can do this too. So yeah.
And I think that's just a testament to you as a mom, you as a wife, and as a woman that wants to compete. I love that. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody looks different. That's where I'm always saying, yeah. And I love to highlight you guys because where you can do it, I do it differently. And that's great. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't think that one person or anybody has to all do it the same. And I just love highlighting how you guys each do it because it's so cool. Yeah. And it is, like you said, it's not perfect. It is such a juggling act. But for you to have the mental strength to be able to back in the box with 3 children running somewhere out there and your husband and all the things, it just works. But like you said, your perspective has changed a little bit over the past 2 years. And I think that's just something that comes with experiencing the road, kind of figuring out what works for you and what doesn't. So talk a little bit about what you have found as you've traveled, the rodeos that you've competed in that really works for you, and maybe some things that didn't work for you that you're like, hey, I'm not going to do that anymore.
I think that when you have a horse like Baby, and I will be honest with you, I didn't have a lot, nothing against Baby, but so Cheyenne this summer, I had never had success at Cheyenne. I had made the perfs, but never made the finals, right? And so I literally just kind of went into that rodeo it is what it is, and maybe I'll draw a good one, type of thing. And I really surprised myself there. And I think that you will find that in Breakaway. You might think that you're only a average roper. Or I'm not a good average roper. I can only rope fast. And I think that, as we grow as ropers, you just kind of surprise yourself. And it is kind of fun to just see where you can excel, because I never really thought that Cheyenne would be a rodeo that I would have a lot of success at. And so it's pretty cool to see that. And I just think that's, inspiration for other people. Like, just because you don't think that you can accomplish something, you just put your head down and work at it. And when you back in the box, you tell yourself you're the best one there, and it's going to happen that day. And, I just think that's such a huge part of it, is the mental aspect, because, breakaway roping is so much muscle memory. And like you mentioned earlier, the mental game is so much of it. And I think that that's the most important thing that these young girls need to understand, that, you can practice and practice and practice and prepare in the arena all that you want. But if you don't have the confidence that you need when you back in the corner, that's a lot of it. So much of it.
When I went down the road of becoming an entrepreneur, it was really one of the scariest things that I have ever done, but something I'm so thankful for now. I have literally started from the ground up with over 10 years of experience, and that is where Fabrizio Marketing originated from. Marketing can be very confusing and overwhelming, and if you're just starting your business or you're not sure which steps to take or how to take them, let us help. We can help you get started from the ground up with establishing your business, creating a logo, creating a brand for your business, designing a website, social media management, email marketing, you name it, we can do it. Let's get focused on growing your business and let me and my team do the hard work for you. Visit our website at fabriziomarketing.com, or you can email me at jordan@fabriziomarketing.com. We can't wait to work with you. Now let's get back to breakaway roping. Well, I think you nailed it on the head right there. Like, let's dig a little bit deeper there. What are some of the things mentally that have helped you get to that place? Because like you said, I agree 100%. It is 90% mental and 10% skill set. Because there's a lot of girls that rope great all over the world. There's a lot of good horses. So talk about some of the things that have worked for you mentally.
Well, like we talked about, my life is really chaotic. So I don't actually have the opportunity to think about breakaway roping all day long, if you can imagine.
No, you don't have anything else to do. What do you, come on now.
So I think it's important that when I do get to a rodeo, or that when I do go to the practice pen, you take that moment. I almost have a moment where I'm literally switching my brain over. I'm like, okay, what are we focusing on at this moment in this practice session or at this rodeo, and I think that changes from rodeo to rodeo or from calf to calf. I try not to let myself focus on too many things at once, but, maybe if I was late at the last rodeo, I am only going to focus on my score. And if I hit the barrier at that rodeo, then the roping usually, not saying all the time, but usually if you're in the barrier, the roping part is easy. And I've always said, scoring is so much a breakaway. So that's what I focus on a lot, is the scoring part. And then just letting your, natural reaction take over for the rest of the run. And in the practice pen, I don't just try to run calves to run calves. For example, this fall, I really only have 2 horses that I'm practicing on when I do. And, Baby doesn't get a lot of runs anymore. I do practice on her here and there just to stay sharp. And there's not a lot of places to go up here in the fall. So we kind of, we might rope 3 calves here and there instead of go to a jackpot or something, just because there's not a lot of options. But I try to just take every calf seriously and make a plan. If Taylor's there or whoever's helping me rope, I might even say out loud what my goal is for this calf. And so then that way, even if I go rope the calf, but if I didn't execute my plan, that means I have something to work on the next time. So I think that each practice run needs to be with a purpose and with a goal in mind.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, too, that holds yourself accountable, especially if somebody else knows what you're trying to do. That's a scary thing. So be careful if you do that. But it's great because
it really adds the extra pressure, because even if you go out in the practice run and say you're about a 2.5, but your goal was to hit the barrier and be at 1.9, that's not what you were going to do that run. And you need to go back and reevaluate. So I think it does help to have a goal on each calf. And, especially if you have a set of practice calves that and this one might be a little slower, then you practice seeing your start on that one and, just executing. So I think that's a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, and
I
I
don't
love
do
that.
it perfect.
It's
I'm not saying this saying I do all this perfect. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of,
no.
that's why I do it though, because you do want to have a goal and try to make yourself better every run.
Well, and I think that's just it. Okay, look, it's not being perfect. It's being intentional. It's being deliberate.
Yes.
It's like,
Yeah.
this is my goal. Did I meet it up or down? Evaluating and then
Hmm.
continuing to move forward. It's
Yeah.
nobody at any point in this, or at least me, I'm not ever perfect. Like, I strive for
Yeah.
that, but it's really, really impossible to attain.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And
So
I don't
one of
think
the,
I'm
oh,
not
go ahead.
saying this to try to I'm not saying all that to make people feel like they need to be perfect. I just think that you should always have just something to work towards. I don't think that we're ever to where we want to be as breakaway ropers. We're always learning. We're always asking people for help, always trying to get better, always learning.
Yeah. And I think that that's what, when you quit learning, when you quit doing that, that's kind of where you hit a top peak. It's really hard to go any further from there. And I think that
Yeah.
that's what really sets the top 15 apart, the top 20, the top 30 in the world, is you're continuing to learn, you're making that commitment, you're being intentional, and it's a sacrifice. I mean, and that's
Yeah.
something, you've even experienced, we've all experienced in our different ways.
Yeah.
But it is a sacrifice. But one cool thing I want to touch on before we move too much further. Okay, you had a great year, obviously. Awesome. Congratulations. But
Thank
you won
you.
2 of the biggest rodeos there was to win. No big deal. I mean, you won Cheyenne Frontier Days. Oh, yeah, and you won Pendleton. No big deal. And you had a great victory lap at both, I might say. But one of the things that really stuck out to me that I'm not sure if everybody knows, on both of the first calves, the first one at Cheyenne and the first one at Pendleton, you rode your backup horse. Then
I did.
you turned around and you got on Baby to finish it off. So how cool that is to be on 2 different horses that you guys have both raised
Yeah.
and trained. But talk a
Yeah.
little bit about, like you said, you went in there, you're like, hey, if it works, great. If it doesn't, great, no big deal. But talk about riding those 2 different horses and capturing both of those titles and just kind of what that meant to you in your year.
Yeah, so I don't really know exactly what the strategy behind riding Reba was in Cheyenne, but I can tell you that, like I said before, I had never had a lot of success in Cheyenne, and whether it was just what I drew or whatever, I didn't have a ton of confidence going into there, and I had a pretty slow July. It probably doesn't seem like it, and actually, when you look back at the year, it seems silly that I was even frustrated, right? Because when you look at the year as a whole, it looks great, but everybody has their ups and downs in Breakaway, and July was not going well for me, and I was very frustrated. And I just decided that I wanted to switch things up a bit. And so I was like, I really got nothing to lose. The slack in Cheyenne is tough. If you just, it's tough. You got to kind of need to draw decent and go make your run. And I was like, I think Reba, I had confidence that she would do good there. So I drew a great calf on her, and she scored really good for me, and I got it roped. And, it was just what I needed, I guess, just to switch things up. And the second I was done on that calf, though, I knew coming back I was going to get on Baby. Just sometimes whether it's switching up a horse, switching up a rope, like sometimes I think you just need that little bit of just kind of give yourself a little bit of a, I don't really know how to describe it, but and I also feel like since Baby is such a great horse and she does do her job every time, that I feel a lot of pressure when I'm not doing well, because I feel like it's entirely my own fault. Whether it is or not, I don't know, but that's how I feel. And so sometimes I think that, it's just, and I've heard girls, with really good barrel horses talk about that they know that horse is doing their job every single time. And so that they feel that extra pressure too. You have to do your job really good to match the horse, if that makes sense. Yep. And so I just, I jumped on Reba. I knew I had confidence in her, and she did great. And, back to Baby and Pendleton. After it's if you've been to the slack in Pendleton, it can be a little slick, right? And so that's kind of that's kind of my theory on that. Was I not saying I would never ride Baby in the Pendleton slack again. It's just kind of how I felt in the moment. I felt good about where I was sitting for the year end, and I was already entered in Pendleton. We had just finished up at Puyallup, and so you basically drive right through there anyways to go home. And I actually was ready to go home. I was tired and ready to get the kids back to school, and my husband was like, nope, we're going to do Pendleton on the way home. I was like, all right, we talked about it. So I was like, well, I'll ride Reba or whatever. So I did, and she worked good. It was a little, I think that's a really crazy slack to throw at and Reba she did good. She handled it fine, but I think we did place in, well, you have to place in the first round, I guess, to make it back at Pendleton. So she did pretty dang good. And same there, when you get back to the short round, it's really chewed up there, and it's a lot safer by the time it's if you get out good in Pendleton in the short round and you're roping your calf, at the top end of the arena where you want to be, it's pretty safe because the grass is a lot more chewed up. So that's why I decided to ride Baby in the short round there. I just felt like it was my best chance and that it would be safer for her. So that was kind of my theory. But I was so proud of Reba. She went to 3 really big rodeos this summer. She went to Cheyenne, Pendleton, and Calgary. And I missed both of my calves in Calgary, but she honestly put me there to place in both rounds, maybe win them. I don't know. She did great. So I am really excited for that mare. Got home. I've been roping on her a lot this fall. Taylor just took her to the Regatta Buckle and healed on her. They didn't have any luck, but she did good. So we're just really excited about these horses we have coming up. And it's I'm just excited to see where our program goes. So.
Well, and I just wanted to point that out because I thought, Reba really the first time out of the box was at Calgary, 5 years old, hasn't really been anywhere. Hey, we're going to Calgary. No big deal.
Yeah.
And she did great, and it's like having that confidence. And then, the 3 of the biggest stages that we go to all year long, she excelled at 2 out of the 3. She helped you win those titles.
Yes.
And so I just think that that's so cool. And I also want to go back and I appreciate your honesty there because I think that that's something as breakaway ropers we've got to do more of is be honest. Yeah. And I love how you were like, hey, I'm feeling a lot of pressure. And how could you not riding, like you said, riding a horse like Baby? But I also want to say there's a lot of, I think, assumptions that you're like, oh, well, that horse is good. It's just the girl. I will just say from my experience as a roper, I have so much appreciation for the horses, but also the ropers, because there's not always somebody that can get on that horse and make them do the same thing as the one person before. And that takes a great rider. And so, yes, I appreciate your honesty there when you're like, hey, there's a lot of pressure here and I needed to do something different because I think that's great advice. And, I think that having that opportunity to have 2 horses that you can get on and have confidence in, great. Mm-hmm. But I also think that you got to give yourself more credit too, because it's like, hey, Baby is where she is because of you as well. You guys work together and synchronize, and it's not always going to be perfect, like you said. But I do think that there's a lot of assumptions that, well, that horse is just good, you should be able to rope good. Like there's a lot more that goes into it, and you know that as well.
Yeah. Well, and we all know, breakaway roping, it's so fast. It's so stinking tough these days. And if you don't bring your A game, you might as well stay home. And so, it's not only your horse has to be on top of its game and yourself. Everything has to be working to get a check at these big rodeos. You don't just show up and be there 50% and come home with a big check. That doesn't happen. So, you kind of got to cut yourself some slack too, because it's not easy what we do. It might look easy sometimes, but it's not.
Yeah, I know. One of my friends said, man, this looks so easy, but it's really so hard. I'm like, I know. So let's talk a little bit about the sport of breakaway. It's come so far. There's, even in the past 4 years, like tremendous jumps within the rodeos and all of the opportunities that we're getting. If you could give some advice and maybe some feedback to those who are coming up in the sport, who are maybe rookies or first, second year girls, anybody who's wanting to be a part of breakaway, what would that be?
Yeah, it really is growing so fast. And I think we're still at a little bit of a fragile state, though, because so many rodeos are adding breakaway for the first time. And I think we all just need to really focus on being respectful, being thankful for the opportunity, and not just demanding it, expecting to be there. And, I think that I just wish that breakaway as a whole, I just want it to come off as thankful and not entitled, And so to these young girls coming up, they're not going to know any different than what it is now. And they didn't see the progression or weren't there for the progression of where it came from. And I'm talking, it's grown so fast in the last 3 years or 2 years, but it started a lot further back than it did. And so I think that girls just need to be careful and, just be respectful to those committee members and pick up your trash, do the little things that make such a big difference to those committees at the end of the year. Like we want people to want us back, be like, those breakaway ropers were fun to be around. They were, a great group of girls. They hustled through their events, and I think that that's just something to keep in mind as we keep growing. And I also just want to be encouraging. Obviously we want breakaway to keep growing. And So for those, 17, 18-year-old girls that are just about to buy their card for the first time, I mean, you just got to believe in yourself. If you put the work in at home, put the work in at your high school rodeos, your amateur rodeos, you just believe in yourself, and you never know where it might take you because, hey, I was a mom with 3 kids 3 years ago watching the NFR on TV pregnant, and I never dreamt that this is where my journey would be right now. So you never know where life is going to take you. So just be grateful, trust in God and his plan, and it might surprise you where you end up.
I love that. And I think it's so neat to see. And also how cool 3 years ago you're on the couch pregnant and now you are one of the people that most girls are looking up to these days. And so how cool that it changes so fast and dreams come true and hard work comes into fruition. It seems like it might take eternity, but it really doesn't. When you look back on it, you're like, wow, that really didn't take that long. So
that
pretty
escalated
cool.
Quickly.
Yeah. So let's change gears a little bit, headed into the NFR. What does that look like for you? Like everybody has a little bit different strategy as far as preparation, equipment preparation, like as far as ropes go, calves, setup, all the things. So talk us through what it looks like for Joey Williams.
Yeah, so probably looks different for me than most because I live in Montana, for one, and I have lots of children.
You live in Alaska and have a million children. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just all part of it. Like everybody's journey looks different. So for me, I try to be a mom first. I try to practice when I can, especially these last few weeks leading into the NFR. I'll probably try to, get in the practice pen a little more. So I think it's important to have a good set of practice calves. Like that is one of the biggest keys. I think that you can get caught up in, just roping whatever you have and, kind of hoping for the best. But, you definitely, for me right now, I definitely want to be practicing on calves that are going to be realistic of what we're going to rope at the finals, and try to take those runs, just try to make those runs that I'm going to try to make at the finals. And so, and I think going into the finals, I'll probably have the same approach as the last couple of years. I mean, obviously everybody would love to win an average title at the NFR, but, I think that for me, I'm just going to take it one calf at a time, and I'm going to just take the shot that's given to me on every calf. And whether that's to win first place or to just make a good solid average run, that's my goal. So I just want to rope every calf for what it is and try to be in the barrier on every single one. And I think that starts in the practice pen, making sure you're scoring intentionally and being sharp with your rope, whether you're trying to make that practice run to be a 1-9 or a practice run to be a 3 flat, whatever that looks like for you. I'm just really, like I said, these last couple weeks, just really focus in and try to get ready for the finals.
Well, and one thing I loved about you at the finals last year, you placed in 4 out of the 10 rounds. You placed in the average. But it seemed like every run you built on one or the other. It just like kept building. You have the number 7 go round buckle in your arsenal. So talk a little bit about the adrenaline there and the atmosphere and like all the guns and smoke going on. I mean, it is fire blazing, breathing dragons back there. It's fast, it's furious. Talk about how you're able to keep your peace and then execute.
Yeah. And it is one of those sports where you want to get hyped up. So it's fun to see, it's exciting. The introduction's exciting. The crowd was fun. Got my crowd up, my cheering section up
Montana
there.
Montana cheering section, big time. Yep.
They're a lot of fun. So, you definitely want to keep it exciting for them. But, it's kind of like the calm before the storm. Like, I think it's one of those things where it's okay to let yourself get super hyped up, super excited. But, when it's time to get your rope tied on and head in the box, that's when you kind of want to, have a little peace and quiet, focus in on what you're going to do, and then let that excitement carry you through, let that momentum of the excitement carry you through once you nod your head. So that's kind of how I try to treat it, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. The atmosphere there it's pretty cool. And it's a little different than anything we do all year because it's only breakaway roping. It's not an entire rodeo. So, you just go from one round to the next. And like you said, you kind of build on it. So the goal is to start out with a decent run so that you can kind of keep building on it, because I think it's one of those things where, if your day is going well, at the end of the day, you're going to be like, well, that was easy. It all went fast. I was roping good. Everything was great. But if you're kind of having an off day, you got to claw your way back out of it. If you start out and your first 2 runs aren't quite what you hope, there's still 8 rounds left, and you just have to remind yourself that and, regroup, give yourself, 30-second, whatever you want to call it, mental reset, and, try to just claw your way back out because it's a knife fight down there. So
Yeah, for
it's,
sure.
yeah, you definitely want to bring your A game.
Yeah. And you two, one of the things you also bring to the table is your husband. He comes and he is 100% in your corner helping you, like a little rope rack down there carrying your ropes for you, warming your horse up. So talk about what it's like having him there as your support system. What do you guys talk about back there? Like, share a little bit of that with us on what that looks like. And do you talk strategy? Does he just, give you a pat on the tush and say, "Good luck, honey"? I mean, what
No.
does that look like?
No, he's really good because, he's my support all year. So he's watched me rope so many calves by the time we get to the end of the year that he knows he is really good at holding me accountable. And I think that, I think everybody needs that because I kind of grew up, not going to say my parents were overly coddling, but they were really encouraging. They were always just like, "Good job, honey. You're doing so good." And my mom, bless her heart, she's still that way. It's never my fault. Which I love that about her. You kind of need that. You kind of need that too, right? You need someone in your corner being like, "You're perfect," but you also need someone that's keeping you. You also need someone keeping you accountable. So if there was, even if I had a good run and there's something he saw that was maybe going to creep up in the next run, something he can see coming, he's dang sure going to let me know about it and be like, "That was all right, but focus on this." He's really good at seeing what I need to think about on the next run. So that's really, really beneficial to have someone like that.
Let's talk a little bit about your rope preparation. Do you get your ropes ready in Montana? I mean, because the atmosphere, the humidity, the dryness, like the temperature is kind of all the same. Do you get them ready there? Do you wait till you get to Vegas? Tell me what that looks like. A little bit about your rope preparation there.
So yeah, I guess my rope preparation is pretty simple. Like is all I do with a new rope is I'll stretch it on a post and then cut it off and, just coil it. Sometimes I'll coil it in bigger coils or sometimes I'll just put them in my can, kind of depending on the rope, and put some powder on it. So yeah, I'll probably have some cut off here at home before I leave, but I am definitely not afraid to just get a new one out in Vegas. And as long as I've stretched it and put a little powder on it, I use a new rope at a lot of rodeos. So I honestly think last year, I really like a new rope feel. I guess you could say I'm spoiled. Yeah. But last year, especially in those sandy arenas and you don't have a lot of time to kind of shake them out, let them dry, repowder them, I probably will use a different rope every round.
Right.
Maybe I might use the same rope again the second day after I've kind of let them. But, once they get, hopefully I catch and they get to drag through the dirt.
We pray that all your ropes are dragged through the dirt.
Yeah, hopefully they're all really sandy by the time I get them. But yeah, so it's not, I don't put a lot of thought into preparing my ropes. I mean, I just kind of keep it simple. I use Lone Star and they are really consistent for me. I can always trust that if I get out a new rope, they're going to feel great. And so, as long as you trust your ropes and they've been consistent, I shouldn't be afraid to just, pull one out. And as long as I've got it powdered and roped the dummy with it a couple times, I feel pretty good about it.
So I've seen you a little bit this year. Sometimes you've used the pink one. Sometimes you've used the green one. Tell me a little bit, like, what's the difference? Where do you feel one is better in a different situation than the other? Or is it just like color coordination with your shirts? I mean, tell me how that goes.
Yeah, when I use my lime green splint boots. No, just kidding.
When I'm doing my money green, I use the green.
No, they're actually very similar ropes. But I think, just a different... When I show up to a rodeo and get a couple ropes out of my can, I usually just kind of pick whichever one's feeling best. And whether that's a pink one or a caddo or a caddy, I just kind of decide that day. Or I really like the caddos, the green ones. I like them both. But the pink caddy is kind of my go-to just because it's kind of my comfort zone. I feel like everybody who's a breakaway roper probably has a kind of rope that's kind of their comfort zone. It's what I've used the longest. So I find myself getting a caddy out when it's a high pressure situation or where I feel like I need a little bit of a comfort thing with me. But yeah, the pink caddy is kind of my comfort rope. That is what I go to the most. But if I have a caddo, the green one that's feeling really good, I'm not afraid to, use one of those at a rodeo too. So I think you're right. I think I did use the caddo. I think it may be Pendleton and Cheyenne short round this year, which I can't even tell you why I didn't plan that. I guess it was just what was feeling good that morning. So.
Well, and I think that that's good to have a variety of options right there, and have confidence in the fact that when you pick them up, they feel good. Like, boom, I'm using this one, roll on with it. Like you said, keep it simple and just move forward there. So I think that makes a big difference. As many of you know, infrared light therapy, otherwise known as laser therapy, has completely changed my personal performance as well as my horse's performance. I use Revitavet. Developed by science and backed by the top trainers and world-class riders, Revitavet is simply the best. It is the leader of equine preventative maintenance and rehab device. It provides healthy maintenance and rehab of your equine athletes, of yourself, you name it, it does it. I use it on a daily basis. I have seen the results, y'all. I had a shoulder injury that I battled through. Laser therapy brought me through it. I've had several injuries with my horses. Laser therapy has brought them through it. I am a firm believer in this product and in laser therapy. Y'all go check it out for yourselves. Revitavet.com. You can use my code JordanJoe to save 10%. My 3 favorite devices are the Hawk Saver set, the Tendon Saver set, as well as a pole cap. Y'all go check it out. Laser therapy has changed my life, and it can change yours too. Now let's get back to some breakaway roping. But starting into Vegas, you guys start out with a back number ceremony. Then you roll into your 2 days of go rounds, 5 go rounds each day. So let's talk a little bit back number ceremony. Like, are you and Shay going to be matching this year, or what is that going to look like? I've started to ask that question because it's kind of a big deal now. Like, what are you wearing? So tell me about what you guys are going to wear.
Yeah, so I don't have it all planned out quite yet, but yeah, I'm kind of a last minute person. We'll be shopping in Vegas the night before. No, just kidding. I kind of have.
We're gonna go to the venue the night before and try to find something. Yep.
Yeah. No, I'm still looking for Shay's outfit. So, if there's any of those really cute boutiques out there that want to send Shay an outfit, just send them my way.
We need matching outfits when we need Joey and Shay to match.
Yes.
Well, and I just think that because she's been, like, your boys have been there too. Your husband has been there as much as they can. They have school. They've got all the things going on. But Shay has been there literally all year long. Yeah. And so she's a trooper. She has been to all 57 rodeos with you.
Oh my gosh.
She's sick of rodeo, I think. But we love to see Shay and just watch her grow up. I think that's really neat.
Yeah. Well, you're going to know if she's there because she's not a quiet little girl. She makes her presence known and she is very wild. But hey, me and her are raising a very, very spirited future breakaway roper right here.
You've got to have a high spirited girl to be a breakaway roper. I'm just saying, you got to be a little high strung and a little crazy. Like, it just has to come with you. If you pet cats and stuff, it's just probably not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Pro Fantasy Rodeo. I know, I love to quiz the veteran breakaway ropers on this because you guys have seen it 3 years in a row. You've kind of watched them play the games. But you and I have a little bit of a different tactic today. I want to talk horsepower with you. So if you were going to pick a Pro Fantasy team off of horsepower and horsemanship and all of those things, what are the qualities that you would pick if you're going to put a team together based on horses?
So, that's an interesting question. So, especially with the unique setup that the finals is, it's 5 head in one day. So, obviously, all of the horses that are going to the finals are great horses. But I would really focus in on ones that are going to score consistently through 5 head. Because when you're in the high pressure situation back to back for 5 runs in, within a couple hour time period, that's a lot of pressure on your equine athlete partner. So, you definitely want to... I would try to pick some horses that you think are going to be solid in the corner and, stay free all the way up to that calf and then just shut it down. So, those are the biggest qualities for me in a breakaway horse. You want something that's going to score solid and then give it their all and run all the way up into that calf. I mean, I think those are so important.
And I think that's so tough. I agree 100%. And it's so tough because we literally ask them to do that every single time. Like, score perfect, run hard and stop hard. Don't get short. Don't fudge. Don't do anything. So I also think it's going to come into play a little bit about where some of those horses may have a little bit more grace than maybe others do, or just the different styles, because inevitably a horse that's going to sit there like a shot dog for 10 in a row is like $1 million horse.
Right. Yeah. No. And they are definitely, I mean, it's important to have something out there that you think that you can trust, that's going to score for you and stay true and run all the way up in there. It's hard for a horse to do that because they're thinking stop, they're thinking go, because it's a quick setup. So, you just got to trust that all your preparation and work leading up to the finals is going to pay off. But those are definitely the two biggest qualities that I would like to see in a breakaway horse out there: scoring sharp, coming across the line hard, and running all the way up into that calf.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think that would be a great team. So, any of you that are picking your teams, if you need some great horsemanship advice, there you go. You got it. So, add that to your team strategy. Yeah, so I'm very excited about Vegas for everybody this year, the growth and all the things. One last question I'm asking everybody. What does future Joey say to you today? If she could tell you anything, what does future Joey look back and tell you right now?
I think that the stage of life that I am in is just such a cool stage of life, and it's so easy to get caught up in all the chaos and to get stressed out and just worry yourself sick over getting to all the places, getting all the things done. And so I think that the number one thing that I'll probably look back and say to myself that I should have just relaxed, chilled out, enjoyed the moment, and because it's definitely not something that's going to last forever. So I think as a whole, when we're in the season of our life and we're getting to go to places like Las Vegas, I think we just need to chill out and enjoy it.
I love that. I think that's great advice. Yeah. And different seasons. That's something I've heard every one of y'all talk about this year in the podcast, and I appreciate that and value it. Everybody is at a different place, and they're all showing up to compete, and it's just going to be a very exciting NFR this year. Can't wait to see you guys all out in Vegas. Have fun getting ready, and we will see you at the South Point.
All right. Thank you, Jordan.